Good afternoon and welcome to Galactic Soul Healing. Today we're going to be doing a Siran Oracle again on cultivating gentleness and letting go of harshness. And we're going to be doing 4 stacks. So these two here are paired up. So when you let go of something, so letting go metaphorically is what we're talking about, in terms of releasing an attitude or an approach or a way of doing something. So it's sort of letting go of harshness and kind of cultivating gentleness as a replacement for the harshness. Okay, so there's, and often in processes of change, there's often 2 things going on like that. Change involves moving from one state to another, or from doing something a particular way into changing and doing it in a different way, or moving from one location to another. But I think sometimes people get a bit fixated on what the end goal is, what we're moving into. But sometimes it does require a bit of a release process from something else. So if we, it's easy to say, let's be more loving and more gentle. But sometimes that's difficult to do if you can't first of all acknowledge what you are doing that is perhaps a bit harsh and not gentle. It's almost like you have to go and identify what those things are, the ways of behaving, ways of speaking, ways of being, and even ways of thinking about other people as well, and also about yourself. So often we are our own harshest critic. So it can be a process of learning to be more gentle on yourself, but also kind of identifying what harsh attitudes you have towards yourself and what the ways in which you put yourself under the pump, so to speak, or the ways in which you perhaps overly criticize or hold this bar up there, and then when you don't meet the bar or you don't meet that standard, then there comes in like this almost like a kick-in mechanism that then tells you, this is you speaking to yourself, that then tells you that you're useless or you can't do it or whatever. So it's like it's a form of self-sabotage, okay? And a lot of people do this very unconsciously, okay? Not being aware of it, but we can become more aware of it. And it can affect lifestyle, it can affect your personality, it can affect who you relate to and how you relate to people. It can affect, say, work relationships. It could affect family relationships, a lot of things, okay? And sometimes we even, judge ourselves to the extent of like, well, we're not good enough for A, B, and C, or, we can't do X and Y, therefore those particular people wouldn't like us, and all this there's a lot of judgment that goes on. So this is about, we're going to do 2 stacks. As you could probably gather, I'm going through a bit of a process with this myself, and often when I do the readings, often they're prompted by personal things, but sometimes I feel like talking about them and getting other visuals on it really helps. And then I also think, you know what, there are other people out there that probably got similar things going on. So there might be a lot of people that are perhaps going through this. It's almost a process of moving more into self-care and more self-love, which is what we're talking about here. I did at the start mention that it's letting go of harsh attitudes towards other people, but I think the main thing to focus on is how you view yourself, because if you view yourself very critically and judgmentally, okay, you're more than likely doing that to other people. You might not be speaking it, but you might be thinking it. Okay, you might be thinking a lot of judgmental, critical thoughts towards or about others because you do that to yourself, and so it's the default program. Okay, it can be, right? And obviously people have this within them in varying degrees, and obviously there are people out there that only have a very small amount of that in their being. Okay, so let's look at the cards, because I just want to shuffle and call in spirit assistance as well. So these are the animal dreaming cards. I've got Alexander King, so I'll just take those out of the deck box, pop those there. Then we have Starseed Oracle by Rebecca Campbell, which is really nice. And I tried to sort of pick gentle, so these animal cards are quite gentle, nature-based type of things. And the Starseed Oracle is sort of that high frequency approach that comes in as well, because as we ascend and become more aware of our origins and our sensitivities and things like that, we naturally have to start to take more care of ourselves. Okay, particularly when it comes to navigating low vibrational energies and trying to raise our own. As we raise our own frequency, we're coming up against that a lot of the time. And letting go of harshness, I guess you could also say, is almost a bit equivalent to letting go of lower frequencies. Okay, as we're moving into higher frequencies, which is gentleness and love. Unconditional love is the higher frequency than, say, frustration, hate, and judgment or criticism that's not not useful. Okay. So there's two pairings. So letting go of harshness, moving into cultivating gentleness, and this is just the same here. So really what we're looking at in these two decks is there might be two sides of the coin that Spirit might present to us, and it's how we're going to see how they kind of might be suggestions about how we can release one, move into the other, or how, if we're moving into the other, what challenges we might face in terms of releasing other stuff that will hold us back from moving into this gentleness. Okay, so the last deck we're going to look at is the Keepers of the Light by Kyle Gray, which is really awesome. These are mostly Ascended Masters and some other high frequency light being figures, and some of the key religious figures as well, which are I believe generated from high frequency anyway. So let's shuffle, and as I shuffle, you can see my terrible cloth there. I didn't actually trim that. It's very taggy. Okay, look, I'm just going to right, let's just shuffle these and then we'll do the 4 stacks. Okay, so Spirit just like to call in my Syrian guides, and also any Blue Avians and Arcturians, Andromedans, and also any other Ascended Masters, Archangels, or light beings that would like to assist us with this reading. I'd just like to ask for assistance in being able to transmit information in a relevant way, relevant and useful, and and also for people watching or listening, just to remind them that if something resonates and they wish to explore it further, they can take that on, then that's fine. If something that I say or something that's shown does not resonate, please don't feel pressured to explore that or feel like it's something that you should be doing, because sometimes the visuals not all the visuals apply to everyone, so as we're all individuals. Okay, especially when it comes to interpretation. That's the other thing too, is that as my interpretation of the cards may well be different to yours, and if you come up with your own interpretations, please jot them down and have a look. Just have a look into those things. Perhaps do some free journal writing on on that yourself. Because it is a little bit like dreams. When we have our own dreams, often we are the best interpreters of our own dreams. So it can sort of apply to tarot as well. Often you're your best own interpreter and oracle cards. Okay. So I'm just going to give you some suggestions. Okay, so let's spread them out now. Thank you in advance, Spirit, for helping us, and really grateful that for you to come around and help us out with this. So we do really need all the help we can get when it comes to cultivating our own highest good. Okay, and also the highest good of all, really. That's what our missions are. It's to kind of help cultivate this new high frequency way of being, which is something really beautiful. And you know, when you are in a higher frequency, you can feel a difference, and then you can also feel the difference too with your thoughts. And then when you drop down into lower frequency, you can also really sense the difference. It's nice to be able to observe yourself in low frequency states and also high frequency states, and then to cultivate some skills and strategies about how to move through them more easily. Okay, especially not getting overly caught in the low frequency things. Now, we'll be going with stack 1, which is this one here, and I'm just having a decaf with sweetener. Done a little bit of research on sweeteners. Apparently stevia is pretty good. Now, okay, so on the topic of letting go of harshness, and we also might see how the first stack 1 and 2 interact. Okay, so here we have abundance. I think I might actually just have to move this whole box a little bit closer. My little prop here. Sorry, folks. So this is abundance. Okay. And we'll look at them individually in a minute as well. Now, I don't think I've seen this card as well before. Your life is a canvas. Artist, manifestation, and creative accountability. Wow, that is awesome. Spirit, I haven't actually pulled this card out before, but how awesome is that? We have abundance, and now we have basically looking at your life as a canvas. So even if we're talking about harshness, obviously we go through harsh times in life, and sometimes we can have harsh attitudes towards ourselves too at certain phases of life. Okay, and you know, a beautiful way to express that out is to perhaps do a canvas. But you might like to do one that expresses perhaps a harsh way of being, and then how you're going to morph into a gentle way of being, or into how you're going to cultivate gentleness. So as I've said before, and Spirit's always encouraging me to say, is that art is a really beautiful way to transform or move through something. Okay, and or even to depict a process of change, because it appeals to not only the logical reasoning mind, it also appeals to that deeper knowing intuitive mind. Okay, that's also very creative. Now, Mother Mary, wow, love and peace. let go of the need to be right. Choose peace. Mother healing is possible at this time. So let go of the need to be right. Now, it's actually quite, if you assume that you are right all of the time, okay, and you make it your business to let other people know that, and that you don't ever accept that you could be wrong on things sometimes, okay, that, believe it or not, can come across as a bit of a harsh personality, because you can be a little bit, it can have this air of self-righteousness about it, which is sometimes not necessarily a gentle thing, because you're actually putting yourself also under a lot of pressure to partake of this thing called perfectionism, which can be quite harsh and judgmental, okay, at times, depending, right? But this is actually quite beautiful here, because we have creativity, love and peace, and abundance. Now, you might think, well, that none of those things are actually harsh, okay? But I think what Spirit's trying to say is that if you can let go of harshness, these are the kinds of things that you'll start to experience. If you can stop being so harsh on yourself, be really, just be a little bit more mindful of it. Perhaps do some art to kind of really tap into your subconscious drives towards that super high standard, or that thing that you hold yourself up there to, in terms of then if you don't meet it, you are then harsh on yourself, you self-judge, you self-sabotage, okay? So it's saying about sort of using the art to appeal to your subconscious, and trying to keep in mind that your life is like waves, and it's like a canvas, it's like an artwork, okay? But this is really awesome here. So there's a mother and a baby, and this is Mother Mary. So it's also kind of alluding to this idea that we really have to re-parent ourselves. We have to re-father and re-mother ourselves, okay? Because sometimes this thing of harshness can be a result of certain parenting style that we were brought up with, as children. Perhaps there was an element of harshness, and I'm not necessarily talking about outright abuse, okay? The harshness can come through in ways of speaking, in ways of, if there was positive encouragement or if there wasn't, okay? If there was love and affection or if there wasn't, okay? So it's sort of about suggesting that if you feel like as a child that you didn't have a super loving upbringing, like there might have been food on the table and clothing in there and a roof over your head, but if you feel like you've missed out on a loving, positive, beautiful, encouraging upbringing as a child, okay, Spirit's also saying that it's possible to cultivate that for yourself, and it's all a matter of frequency, and they're saying use art can really help that. It's definitely a picture of nurturing, isn't it? That's really awesome. But I think it is definitely trying to bring out that the patterns of harsh self-criticism and self-judgment and self-sabotage can be a result of the parenting style that you had as a child, okay? Because it's what you're always used to, it's what you're used to doing, it's how you're used to viewing yourself, okay? Yeah, and sometimes also it can be a result of how you saw your parents interact. So whether they had a positive, loving relationship, whether that energy was something then that filtered into you, that you then kind of were able to cultivate for yourself quite easily, or if there was a lack of that between your parents, or if they perhaps divorced or whatever, there might be a little bit of you might feel a little bit like something was kind of missing, but in terms of that emotional warmth that perhaps wasn't there so much for you. But Spirit's there again saying, animals are beautiful. really gentle and caring. And the other thing too is that this colour here, this blue that she's wearing, and even these flowers of nature, they are also really gentle, beautiful things that will help you shift your frequency. So you can use colour and clothing to because you can dress harshly in terms of colours, if you know what I mean, or you can dress with gentleness and softness. Often I find that if I wear a lot of dark colours, depends on how I'm feeling as to if I feel that I can handle that. But if I for instance saw someone that was wearing all black, and then I saw someone who was wearing, like maybe a soft blue and a white or something like that, I'd sort of go, of those two, which one visually looks more harsh? Okay. And most people would say, well, the black, it seems more dark and more, but black has has a mysterious quality about it, and it also is has yin energies. So sometimes the dark colours might be beautifully and supportive for you. Okay, so it really depends. But it's just saying, you can look at clothing, nature, animals, and art. You can utilise all those things to help you let go of harshness. Okay. Let's look at the next stack, which is the second one over. I'm just going to have a quick drink while I hold up the first card. So this is Cultivating Gentleness, and I am astounded and amazed. Look at this. Dolphin Breath. Now, that is amazing because I was doing some yoga last night, and I was thinking, you know what? I've gone for a few weeks without really, actually my yoga was followed by a relaxation meditation. I've gone for a few weeks without doing one. And then other things regarding my body care just sort of got completely out of whack because I forgot to actually stop and breathe. And when you use the breath to deeply relax, okay, there's an inner mechanism that kicks in, and it's almost like this self-love, high frequency thing that happens, and that is definitely a beautiful tool that you can use to cultivate gentleness, especially towards yourself. Okay. Breath. And I'm going to also pop along inside of that relaxation that comes with focusing on the breath and using that to, perhaps if you're feeling very anxious or something like that, is to just sort of shift that by using the breath, okay, into a positive vibration. Actually, let's look at this one. Wow. Isis, another one of my spirit guides. I believe she's actually based in Sirius, so this is kind of awesome. Magic manifesting. So what Spirit's sort of trying to tell us here is that once we start this process of letting go of harshness towards ourselves, and then also it will flow into other areas of our life, and it will start to become magic. The world we have for ourselves is more gentle, and the world around us is more gentle as well. Okay, and more loving. And we can transform things, like art here. This is very transformative. But isn't this beautiful? This is amazing. We have almost this dark, kind of mysterious, quite powerful thing happening here. And we have this beautiful, soft, loving thing here as well. And that's just awesome. It's good to have contrasts, okay? Which is what we're contrasting a little bit. Things. Now, I actually want to say down the bottom, it says, your dreams, visions and goals are becoming reality. Stay focused. So, Spirit is saying, keep focusing on being more gentle with yourself. Being more gentle with that, first of all, because when you start to do that, you automatically do it with other people. Okay? It's not that common for someone to sort of start to become really self-aware and gentle, and then they're actually really horrible to other people. If that was the case, it probably meant that the efforts that they were making weren't actually going deep enough, and they weren't actually really genuine in what they were feeling from it, okay? But your dreams and visions become reality. So the gentleness and unconditional love and the higher frequencies will become a reality. Okay. Now, this says the golden children, which is just amazing because we've just had these motherly figures here of the mother kangaroo and Mother Mary, and now we have the children. So it's a little bit like something is being born. We have the mother, then we have the children. So we are being birthed into a high frequency wave being. That's one way to interpret this, okay? It says underneath, inner child, tenderness, innocence, rare gifts. See that word tenderness? That is very closely affiliated with gentleness. I just have chills because this card is really beautiful. Inner child, and which is what we were saying here, is that if you've experienced harshness in your life, or if you find that you are, it's more a case in point, if you find that you have a harsh personality, okay, the program that you have been kind of subject to as a child growing up may have been one of perhaps a rigid strictness, or maybe there were a lot of conditions. There may have been some emotional neglect. There may have been some emotional abuse, physical abuse, any type of negative thing going on. But there may have also been some violence, okay, perhaps between your parents or between siblings or between you and parents or whatever. And at this point I'm going to say, if you're feeling triggered right now and highly emotional about what I'm saying, I really suggest that you perhaps see a therapist, because it's worth giving yourself the gift of releasing some of that, if you can. So innocence and rare gifts. So really gentleness. Innocence is a kind of gentleness really also, isn't it? So it's really just about accepting that you do have an inner child there is a part of you that's innocent, that has perhaps been hurt and damaged in some way, that has caused you to grow into that, to become harsh or cold or shut down. Okay. So then it's just simply a case of breathe, have faith that the magic can happen. If you can release some of that stuff, and this could be why these were put here together, reparenting, and this could also certainly be a figure of a therapist, because sometimes a therapist is someone that can listen non-judgmentally to what you have to say about your life, okay, and your experiences, and they can actually provide a very supportive role that in some way, and just in a small way, may actually for a time of your life, maybe half a year or a couple of years, it might actually replace the parent that you didn't have in terms of your emotional support that you need. Okay, but obviously the ideal is to cultivate your own inner strength and love and care to be able to support yourself, repairing yourself, with the support of others and friends that you associate, and family, of course, right? If that's something you're looking to do. And this, once again, too, the art is it's like looking at your life as a canvas. It's just a beautiful metaphor. I really love our spirits put that in there for us right now, because we're really trying to move into this higher frequency and really just accepting our innocence and our own inner child. Okay, really holding that and loving it. Another little similarity I just sort of picked up on here was, and you might pick up on some too, is that you could imagine if that was actually a massive big canvas. See how it's white? It's like it's filled with light, but you could imagine that that might be the canvas of your life that you're going to paint on there. You know, it almost looks like a painting hanging on a wall, doesn't it? And certainly breath, creativity, which is this, and where's Isis gone? Right. Yeah, your dreams and visions becoming a reality. So dreams are the unconscious. Okay. And as a child, obviously we have dreams when we're children. You know, we wish that we grow up and be A, B, and C, or do A, B, and C. Okay, so it might be about getting in touch with some of that stuff and giving yourself little gifts, self-love, self-care stuff that you can do that will take you out of resentment and harshness and judgment into, oh, I am giving myself gifts now. I can self-care and look after myself. Okay, yeah, and sometimes that's a big process, you know. Right, let's look at stack 3. So they definitely interacted. I'll just look at the next pairing here. So this one's interesting, dowry or bowerbird. So on the subject of letting go, sometimes we actually need to gather. If we're letting go of something, sometimes we've got to go through a little process of gathering things. One of them might be to just kind of identify some harsh attitudes that you have towards yourself, some judgment stuff, and then just sort of gathering some skills and maybe some supports to help you to shift into a new way of being. Okay, so, and that's what this is. The bowerbird is actually preparing their nest for a family. Oh my god, sorry folks, I can't believe this. That's another one of my spirit guides. I did not handpick these out. It's almost like, is this reading for me or what? Ancestor spirit, that's what that says. Yep. White eagle. Connect to your lineage. A family wound or pattern can be healed now. Wow. We're back on. I've got so much chills now. We are back on the reparenting ourselves, but also the connections that we have with family are important in terms of helping to address some of the deep-seated attitudes of harshness that we have towards ourselves. Okay. So they're saying that, you know, this is important, ancestors and family, in terms of identifying those patterns that perhaps dysfunctional and unloving and a bit negative, and then perhaps mending some of those wounds. This one is portal. Doors are opening, you decide, rewards, a wild card. So doors are opening. So this is a card about opportunity. And this is what I think this is what Spirit's saying here as well, is that you have an opportunity to actually, if you feel very negative on the inside, you don't like yourself, all this sort of stuff, you have an opportunity to change that simply by, well, this isn't it interesting that this first set seems to be a lot about inner child and reparenting. If you can really just tap into your childhood, okay, because this is sort of saying, this is perhaps about extended family or family of origin as well, and then just start to slowly prepare yourself or your life for some shifts and changes, okay, and doors will open, basically the universe will come in to help you, because it knows that you are shifting to a higher frequency, and once your conscious mind comes on board with, hey, this is my intent now, you will get assistance, okay. But obviously we do have to take steps, okay. We can't actually just sit back on the lounge and expect our lives to change, can we? So the next stack, the last one, is dog and loyalty. Wow, that's amazing. That is actually about making a commitment to yourself. Loyalty, it's about being loyal to you. It's about committing. Let's look at this one. Oh my, this is just freaking me out now. The spirit, what's happening? This is another one of my spirit guides. Oh my god, I'm really going to have to look at these cards again later when I finish, because this is just amazing. And obviously he might not look like that in real life, or maybe he didn't, but this is just an artist's, impression. Serapis Bay Ascension. Move into your true self. Rise above the darkness. The light is here, folks. Move into your true self. How awesome is that? And this is the last stack. And you know what I'm going to say about this dog here is be loyal to that cause. Be loyal and true to yourself. Right? And part of that is being gentle with yourself, which is about giving yourself permission to do things that are good for you. Okay? Perhaps cultivating some friendships that are good for you. Focusing on stuff that is good for you. Your soul. Okay? Your true self. And if you don't know what your soul is about, it's worth doing some exploration on that. You got the love. Okay, it says Hadarian energy, codependency, and boundaries. Wow, this is actually about self-love. It's about your true self. Oh, just got chills again. Okay, so basically the challenge in codependency, okay, is that often people, one or both people in a partnership, relationship, whatever it is, one or both people sacrifice their true selves in order to be needed by the other person. Okay? Whereas what we need to do is to try and cultivate or shift that relationship connection into an interdependent thing, connection where you can be loyal and true to yourself while still here, you got the love, while still giving and receiving love. Okay? Codependency is about, if you fall into that, it's more than likely because you were conditioned to believe that in order to receive love, that you had to become needy or inferior or a victim, okay, in order to receive love, because that might have been what you saw as a child in front of you, perhaps your parents or other people that you knew. Okay, codependency is often about connections that are either based in originally or morph into it's basically a connection based on neediness and not much else. Okay. And often some relationships have an element of codependency, some are completely codependent, and obviously if two people need each other in some way or shape or form, then obviously if they can help each other out, then that's a good thing. But if one or both of those people are actually unhappy while they do that, or they don't feel comfortable, they feel like they've got to lower their frequency all the time, or they feel like they're they can't be themselves, or that maybe when they do try to be themselves that they're met with a negative reaction, okay, yet they still really so-called need the person. Okay, I mean obviously there's communication too, but see, boundaries is another word here, codependency and boundaries. So it's about learning the difference and being loyal to your own boundary, which is in terms of, okay, my true self is this. I can be there for you, for that person, but at this time, I have to be over here for myself, to do something for myself, because I can't, because I don't feel like I can do that with you, or it's not something that you're interested in. However, I shouldn't have to sacrifice my interests and my loves and my passions in order to just be with you. Okay? So it's about, and this is the thing about gentleness, is what we move into, is about learning how to navigate our own needs with the needs of others, and being able to be, we can still be loyal to others, but we also need to be loyal to ourselves. And this is what therapists are saying here. Your true self. You still need to have your own little thing going on. Basically, there are lots of lucky people out there that are in connections and relationships with people that both people are on the understanding that, they're with a separate individual person. They share passions, they love each other and all that sort of stuff, but they also know that that person does need to go and do things for themselves, because, hey, that's what makes them awesome. Because then if they have a connection, then it's what forms the character and the soul in the person. Okay, because we can't rely on one other person only to give us our purpose, our meaning, define us. No other person can define us, okay, because we are our own souls. But we can love another person, okay? We can give and receive love as much as we can. But we also have our own light, okay? Our own purpose and reason for being, okay? And I guess some people, I guess it depends on your view, but I think this is just warning us about the dysfunctional codependency that can happen. And it's about being gentle on yourself and gradually moving and adding in other things for yourself, so that you don't feel completely negated, in terms of you don't even feel like you exist because you're just there for the other person all the time. Okay? And that's what sometimes people kind of end up having, this an identity crisis, where they don't really know who they are anymore, because they've just been there for the other person, and that's it. And we're talking pretty serious isolation in that case. And sometimes people in that situation, they self-isolate, they self-restrict, because they believe that their focus is to be the other person. Okay, but they shoot themselves in the foot hugely, because they basically become lazy and complacent, which means that they don't tend to look after themselves. They just focus on other people all the time, and then basically when that person goes, or whatever, they've gone, or they do something else, it's like what they're left with after years and years, it's like they don't know what to do with themselves, because they've literally lost themselves. Okay? And that actually makes me pretty angry, because I think, how can a society grow, cultivate and condition people into thinking that they don't have their own identity? I just think that's borderline sorcery, and it's disgusting, because I think everyone should be brought up to believe that they have their own soul and they have their own beauty and their own power to offer the world. Okay? For the good of all and for their own highest good. And it's not to say that they can't be in loving relationships. They can be in really loving, passionate relationships and be really dedicated to another person. But they need to have their own shit going on. Okay? It's just normal. Like, it's become very apparent that I actually didn't have that upbringing. And, for other people that have had that and it's been a normal part of their lives, I take my hat off to you that, you were able to have that in your life. And you're fortunate enough to have parents that were able to cultivate that within you. Okay, this harshness is actually bullshit. It's actually low frequency crap. If it's extreme, okay, you don't need it. And if you convince yourself that it's a normal way of being and that you need to stay there because it's all you know, well, there are other opportunities. Okay, you don't have to stay there. in that mindset. And you don't have to keep perpetuating that program, okay? You can gently move out of it. But, it's a process of cultivation. And Hadarian energy is also really awesome because they're really connected to their planet. So this is another thing Spirit's suggesting to me now, is that, and this is one of the tools that I've used, is if you can really connect to nature, do some meditation, really get down to your own soul, like really ground out, okay, that will help you immeasurably to move from this into this, okay? Because when you're in, say, codependency, that's a bit harsh, or say you've been brought up in it as a child, okay, it's like it's just a great big grey fog that surrounds you, and then you end up just becoming the fog, okay? And it can be very ungrounding. So hence I really like how the Hadarian energy's in there, and I think that's a very healing thing. Because Hadarians are very loving and very giving. And this is the issues about the boundaries. And as Spirit's saying to me now, is that, yes, Hadarian starseeds, or starseeds that have had a Hadarian incarnation, okay, they are often the ones that become victims of codependency because they are so loving and so giving, okay, that they don't realise that other people actually can take advantage of that, and they use it for their own good. They keep perpetuating it without encouraging the poor Hadarian starseed to actually, do something for themselves, go out and, cultivate some interests or hobbies or a job or whatever, okay? Sometimes Hadarians really need that loving care from someone. But this is what Spirit's saying, is that if you don't get that, you need to be loyal to yourself in order to build up, Serapis saying, true self. Okay? So, people that have had codependency problems, often it's because of lack of boundaries. Okay? And that could mean that you've been a Hadarian starseed if you have a lack of boundaries. Okay? I did actually experience one time that I had a incarnation on Hadaria, that I had been there, because I have had issues with boundaries, okay, and they're the kinds of people that also, they can be sensitive, but it can be that they feel a lot. So it's weird because you can go into a room or go and hang out with people, and then you get home and it's like you just feel really like not yourself, not centered, and there's other sorts of weird energies going on. But even in terms of if you're young and you're going into love relationships, okay, sometimes if you don't have a strong self-definition, okay, you end up getting swept along by, say, if someone else has a really strong feeling for you, you can get swept along by that and taken in by it, even if you're not really sure in your own mind if you actually like them that much or not. You can just be thinking, if you're a Hadarian and say you had an upbringing that was, a bit harsh, you might just be thinking, I'm actually pretty worthless, so if someone really likes me that much, that's awesome, I'll just go with that. And, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to, have more love in the world and for, to make people feel better, right? It's really bad because if you can't define yourself strong enough, okay, you end up getting used and end up in the wrong places with the wrong people. Okay. This is really long reading and I've got sidetracked. But this is all about being true to yourself and just being aware of if you have really thin boundaries. Okay, and if you feel a bit like other people are trying to drag you into things and you're just going along with it without really wanting to, just do a little self-check-in. And white eagle here, ancestor, this is about opportunities, and obviously letting go. There's a process as well, preparation. And cultivating gentleness is also about getting skills of how you're going to do that, because this is the higher frequency state here, and this is the low frequency. Okay. Now I just feel like grabbing one more card from each stack, because I don't know, I just feel like doing that. Can you believe it? We have magic, which is just reiterating what Isis was saying, the magical thing about shifting into a higher frequency as you let go of harshness and move into cultivate gentleness. Okay, and light activation. Okay, share your light. Your internal guidance is coming through loud and clear. So people, if you can cultivate gentleness towards yourself, okay, you start to activate that inner stuff. And this, interestingly enough, we have the mirror of the light point here and the dark, and that says perspective. So it says none of this matters, zoom out, common ground. So in terms of letting go of harshness, okay, what it's sort of saying is that, yeah, it's just a low frequency. Like, zoom out of it and just really focus on what you have in common with people, particularly the things that reflect your true self. So focus on the common ground and start cultivating gentleness. Find people that you have common ground with, okay, so that you can start to focus on your true self and kind of really move into where you need to be. Okay, so that's an interesting little 3 to end on. Right, that's it, folks. I'm going to wrap it up now. Yeah, so like I said, some of that stuff there that I have said may not resonate with people, okay. This is, my videos are all unscripted, so I haven't prepared or written anything down. So it may be that occasionally I say things a little bit offhand, or a little bit off the wall, or a little bit maybe slightly askew. I apologise for that. And some of that is my own emotional stuff coming through, so just be aware of that. But if there are any of the images and some of the things I've said that kind of agree with what you're thinking about in terms of your own self-reflection, self-exploration, then that's okay. Then just, go with that. So now, like, if something hasn't resonated, don't take it on, okay? And I guess if you want to leave me a message, positive or negative, that's fine, because life is about moving through paradoxes, really, yeah, trying to find that balance. So I will see you next time. Bye for now.